My name is Nicholeen Peck, and I am a parenting expert. In fact, I teach something called self-government, which teaches parents and children how to master themselves, how to have government over their own behaviors and their own thoughts. And I'm generally known as a master in handling out of control behaviors. And in this video, we're going to be talking all about how to help an angry child calm down. In this video, we're going to talk about anger and understanding anger. We're also going to talk about some skills that we all need to know in order to transition our brain from being in that emotional place to that place where we can actually think again. So we're going to do a little bit of work on the brain, and we're going to talk about how to help somebody totally calm down and what type of correcting skills and teaching skills we need for that. And we're going to talk about a whole lot more. So what does anger look like? Anger actually can have a lot of different faces depending on the personality of the person. So for some people, there's the obvious like, and they get mad and they stomp and they scream and they hit. That's really aggressive, right? Anger. But anger can look like other things too. In fact, sometimes anger can look like a victim or passive or just putting up a wall or shutting down. Like they look at you, but they don't look at you. They don't want you to see them. They're hiding. They don't want to be part of a conversation. They don't talk to you. That can all look like anger too. Of course, crying can look like anger, pouting, complaining. There are many things that people do when they're getting angry, and they start to just show some of those emotional behaviors. So that's what happens to us when we're angry, is we start going further back in our brain. So the front part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, that does all of the logical processing for the brain. This part of the brain doesn't fully develop for a child until they're between the ages of 18 and 26 years old. So this means that lots of times people have hit adulthood before they have full development in their prefrontal cortex. But this prefrontal cortex at any stage can learn to solve problems. You know, bit by bit we get better at it. So any age brain can learn to solve problems. And we just get better at it as we get older. But there's something that happens to all of us, no matter the age, when we get upset. When we allow ourselves to engage in angry feelings and to invest in those, because anyone can feel angry in a minute, but we need to know what to do with it, right? And that's one of the things we're going to get to teaching our children, what to do with it in this video, which is so exciting. When we start to feel angry, it's important for us to know what is happening in our brain. In fact, this is important information your children should understand, so that as you help them, they know you truly are helping them and not just trying to make their lives difficult by doing some sort of a correction technique with them, which they oftentimes fight against. But if they knew what you were really doing, they wouldn't push so hard against it, which is you're helping them, right? You're helping them try to stay in front brain, because as you get angry, you go to an emotional place in your brain, which is like in the middle. And then you let it fester there for a little bit. The more and more emotional you get, the more and more back in your brain you go. Okay, when you are completely out of control, you are in back brain. They call that the fight or flight part of the brain. This is the place where a person literally can't think, maybe more than like 10% processing ability. So this is the time when they really need help on calming down, right? So the parents have to be prepared for how to help a person immediately and quickly go to front brain. And if they do happen to get all the way back there to the fight or flight back part of the brain, they can have something in place to help that child transition from that place and get calm and get to the front place. And we're going to talk some about that in this video. When we're correcting someone, the whole goal of the correction is to help them go from emotional part of the brain to logical part of the brain, which means we have to appeal to the front part of the brain. The best way to appeal to that front part of the brain is to have already done some teaching ahead of time. So in the Teaching Self-Government Parenting course, we talk about pre-teaching the children. That's one of the 5 teaching styles that we use to correct troublesome behaviors. So pre-teaching is when you tell somebody ahead of time what is going to happen. Well, some of the things that we pre-teach in the Teaching Self-Government Parenting course is we teach 4 basic skills to children. These 4 basic skills are following instructions, accepting no answers, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately. If a person learns all 4 of these skills, if they master them, each of them has a skill set attached to it, so certain steps that they follow. If a person masters all of those 4 skill sets, that takes care of 99% of their behavioral problems. I'm talking adults or children. This is a huge thing. So we need to learn these skills. And one of the skills we've got to know the most, this is the top priority, number 1 most important skill, is following instructions. To follow instructions, you look at the person, keep a calm face, voice, and body. You say, okay, or you ask to disagree appropriately, which is one of your other skill sets that you use. And then you do the task immediately, whatever it is you're being instructed to do, and then you drop the subject. Those 5 steps are what we are going to try to get a person to do when they are going out of control. So especially when they get clear back here in the fight or flight part of the brain. Now I want you to know when a person is that part of the brain at the very back, it can take up to 20 minutes for them to get fully calm if they are allowed to get back there. Now if they're just at midbrain and they're just starting to get a little bit mad, they still have more capacity to think. Maybe 40% as opposed to 10 when they're clear back here. So you can really appeal to that front brain by giving instruction. And there's a certain way that we do that. So what we do first when we notice there's a problem is we do a correction. Now these effective corrections are a 7-step process that we go through with the child. And we start out by describing a situation. During this 7-step process, they get the opportunity to earn a negative consequence, which we make sure always is a good negative consequence that brings about good character development and self-evaluation. Not just something punitive or mean that the child should be told to do just so that the parent can feel a little bit vindictive or help the child learn the hard way from that lesson. Everything we do is about teaching the child, even though it is very firm and they have to accept their consequences. If a parent does some corrective teaching and the child chooses not to accept that consequence, remember those 4 basic skills? The 3rd one is accepting a consequence. If a person doesn't get the opportunity to accept their consequences, they actually can't learn self-government. And self-government is the means to their own personal freedom and achieving the goals that they put for themselves. So this is a key skill that they need to learn. If they don't accept the consequence that they earned when the parent does the initial correction, then the parent knows they're probably going further and further into back brain, and they need to do something called intensive teaching. There's a type of a dialogue that we do in the Teaching Self-Government Parenting course called the Rule of 3. This is an intensive teaching moment. It's one of the most complicated things that we do learn in the Teaching Self-Government Parenting course, but it definitely makes the difference for the child. Helps appeal to that front brain. You go through a series of pre-teaches and instructions and then corrections in order to get the child to follow the 5 steps of following an instruction. If a child gets to that place where they willingly follow the 5 steps of following an instruction, then you know that they're probably pretty calm or really close to completely calm. So that's the gauge that we use for their calmness. Now I want to talk to you about the magic button for how to help them become calm. I told you I was going to tell you about a magic button. I don't actually love to hook the word magic or trick or anything like that to parenting because we shouldn't ever be tricking them. In fact, they should know everything that we're doing before we even do it. A good parent, a good teacher always prepares and pre-teaches the children. So we're going to call it a power button because really this is the biggest power in helping another person choose calmness because they do have to choose it. This power button is the parent's own calmness. If the parents have mastered their own calmness and they can maintain that calmness, that connection, that feeling of love for the child through the whole correction or through the whole intensive teaching, when that child is going completely out of control, the child has nothing to fight against except for themselves. And when they realize that, they stop power struggling with you, and then they start power struggling inside their own head and trying to come forward. Then they can come to their own calmness. They have to get rational. They have to be able to think before they get calm. In an emotional state, a person does not become calm. In fact, calmness is the opposite of the emotional state. So the whole point is to get them to a place where they can think in the front so that they can evaluate what's going on and be calm. And if the parent knows that's possible and the parent has the words to say, the skills to use, and has mastered their own calmness, then that child has a chance of mastering their calmness too. It truly is powerful to see what a calm parent can do with an appropriate interaction with a child who's out of control, and how quickly that out of control child can choose not to go out of control anymore, but to choose calmness instead, because it is more powerful. I have a free gift for you. Just for watching this video and talking about calmness with me, I want to give you my Calm Parenting Toolkit for free. If you click the link below down in the description to this video that says Calm Parenting Toolkit, it will take you to the toolkit for free. I hope you will use it, you will master your calmness. And I also hope you'll subscribe to this channel. There is so much here about calmness. I put out a video every day that leads to more self-government, more connection, and more calmness in your family. Give this a thumbs up if you like it, and subscribe below.